If there was one thing that you could say to pet owners, what jumps to mind?
Learn how to understand your pets better. Learn how to listen to them better. It's little changes in their body language, in how they move, in their behaviour. Those little changes can be the indicator of a large amount of pain and suffering and trauma and stress that's going on in their system. So people need to just learn how to understand their pets better and listen to them better, I think.
Hi, welcome and thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking to Dr. Ed, the healing vet. Now, he's a little bit of a unicorn, this one. He's developed a thing called whole energy body balance, which is all about finding and healing your pet's silent pain using different forms of touch. He teaches this to both pet owners and professionals worldwide. He has just recently released a book, which I'm reading at the moment and learning so much. And we're going to be talking about all of that and more today. Welcome and thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I would really love to start with talking a little bit about sort of where you've come from. That was a really loud crack of thunder.
Yeah, so I grew up on a cattle property in North Queensland, extensive beef cattle kind of production place, which taught me a lot of not so good ways to treat animals early on. Then I came across Monty Roberts and his book, The Man Who Listens to Horses, which is really where I started to open up to the idea that you can communicate with animals in their language and find kind ways to work with animals that forms a really healthy, strong relationship of trust and inspire animals to want to work with us. I've always loved working with animals. I'm autistic and ADHD type person, so quite neurospicy, and I've always found animals a lot easier than humans. So I went off and did a Bachelor of Veterinary Science at the University of Queensland, graduated as a still very kind of conservative kind of veterinarian, standard typical veterinarian. When I was about a year and a half out of vet school, I ran into a fellow called Dr Tom Ahern who worked with horses' necks, and he would take horses that had a forelimb lameness that they couldn't find a reason for with nerve blocking and x-rays and all that kind of thing. He'd work on their necks and the lameness would go away. So this triggered me into thinking about dogs and cats' backs because they've got the same kind of spines as horses and we do. I mean, a bit different kind of shape and format. And I started getting curious about neck and back pain, and I started feeling into the body and being more curious about what was going on. And as soon as I started looking for that kind of pain, I started finding quite a lot of it that I'd been missing because I didn't get taught anything about how to, or even that it existed at university, let alone how to find it. When I found pain and restriction in these animal spines, I wanted to help them. So I started playing around with touch and movement and pressure, therapeutic touch. And pretty quickly, we noticed these animals show improvements. Now, there were no modalities really available to study 28 years ago when it comes to animal physical therapies, bodywork, massage, that kind of thing. These days, there's lots of them, and whole energy body balance came from this obsession I have with working with animals with touch to find and relieve soft tissue pain, neck and back pain, but I've also discovered along the way that it's incredibly good for healing anxiety and trauma in animals. Then a few years after that, I got really sick with chronic fatigue syndrome. Western medicine helped me a little bit in the beginning, but very quickly ran out of answers. And one of the few things I found that really helped me feel better was energy healing. So I then went on a deep dive of studying and learning a whole range of different kinds of energy healing things. I found that animals responded really well to them, and the whole energy body balance method. We have physical therapy is one kind of mainstream of whole energy body balance, and the other one is more intuitive work and energy healing.
Amazing. Tell us a little bit more about how the therapy works. Imagining that viewers are going to have questions along the lines of, okay, well, it's touch therapy, so how does that compare with things like therapeutic massage, with Reiki, those sorts of things? Can you maybe unpack that a little bit?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest points of difference of whole energy body balance is, particularly for the bodywork side of things, that everything that I created and teach comes from direct experience. So I've not really done a whole lot of training. I've done a whole lot of getting my hands on animals, listening to them very carefully, watching how they respond to touch. And I suppose really what what you could say is that it's the animals that have taught me how to do body work through working with them. With the web therapeutic touch, we have an assessment process which teaches people how to map out where there's pain, tension, restrictions in the body. And then we have a whole big toolkit of different kinds of therapeutic touch skills which can all be expressed in a flexible, intuitive way. We have relaxing touch skills, which are really good because of body level relaxation response, and they're incredibly good for anxious, traumatized animals. They help animals build self-regulatory capacity and learn how to move from anxiety arousal into the green zone of healthy relaxation and anchor into healthy relaxation in their lives. We have craniosacral type skills, which are inspired from me having craniosacral practitioners work with my body. Part of my kind of autistic nervous system sensitivity means that if I have practitioners work with me, then I kind of learn how to do it from experiencing it. And that's been another big influence with whole energy body balance, is a lot of high level bodywork practitioners who've helped me over the years. I've learned a lot from experiencing having sessions with them. We use movement-based stuff, pulsing, rocking type movements, and then we have a whole big toolkit of neurofascial soft tissue release type skills, which are getting right deep into the body to release patterns of pain, tension, trauma, and so on. And then with the energy healing side of things, it's like Reiki in that it is an energy healing modality, but the kind of healing energy we use is very different to Reiki. We've had a number of our students say that they've observed that animals accept the kind of energy that we use more happily than Reiki energy. Now, I have studied Reiki in the past, but I don't actually practice it anymore. So it's, I suppose, a lot of the massage type modalities really focus on the muscular system, and in whole energy body balance, we're focusing on the whole being through that matrix of connective tissue and nervous tissue that I call the neurofascial network. So it's more a whole body type modality, perhaps.
Excellent. The thing that I find particularly fascinating is the applications for rescue dogs, dogs that are coming from a place of trauma, dogs that have severe behavioural issues, aggression, just for some of these dogs who've had it really hard in their past, I can just imagine what it feels like to them once they open up just that little bit, just that feeling of being acknowledged, of being heard, basically.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things with whole energy body balance is that there is a very deep, beautiful listening process that is at the heart of all of our interactions with the animals. We're always very curious about how we can listen to the animals and let them know that we're responding. If I'm working with an animal that has pain and I hit a sore bit and they go, oh, I'll instantly relax the pressure and then go back to some very gentle touch until the animal relaxes and then calibrate into a more kind of therapeutic contact. Ideally, what we're wanting to do when we're releasing pain and tension out of the body is get a connection that is, oh, that's uncomfortable and it feels good. Now, when you start off with animals, at first, most animals are like, what the hell are you doing? You're touching sore bits. This is weird. I don't like it. So we do have to kind of teach the animals how to accept therapeutic touch, because there is an element of healthy discomfort in any kind of healing work like this.
No, but once they realise that, once you've established that level of trust, that connection, and they realise, okay, this maybe doesn't feel so comfortable right now, but I trust that this human is trying to do something good. They're trying to help me. That makes all the difference.
Look, animals are not silly. They very quickly learn that they feel better after the treatments, and nearly always by the second or third treatment, the animal is coming in, tail wagging, kind of dragging on the lead, saying, give me my body work, give me my massage. Some animals take a little bit longer to get to that point than others. Every animal is kind of unique and different, but it's nearly always after a series of web sessions, animals are happier, more playful, more mobile, more connected, more wanting to be connecting in relationship with their humans. So it's a really beautiful thing to do with them.
Absolutely. Now, do you have, well, I imagine you've got a gazillion case studies. Do you have any examples? I'm particularly interested for selfish reasons. I have a rescue boy that I've had for a number of years now that I took on as an 8-month-old. Severe anxiety, one of the most extreme cases I've ever seen. No history of trauma in terms of the household. Beautiful family, no dramas there, but we did discover later, when I did a little bit of a research deep dive, that he was the runt of a very large litter and would often get overlooked, would get piled up upon by his siblings, would get pushed off the food bowl, you name it, and you still see a little bit of that today. How would the web technique work in terms of supporting a dog with those kinds of issues?
Well, all of these animals that have this kind of nervous system that has got chronically dysregulated into a chronic state of fear, arousal, stress type pattern, that affects everything. Whenever the nervous system is stuck on like that, then it affects the immune system, it affects the gut, it affects everything. So I'll tell you the story of Jaeger, who's an animal who belongs to one of our students. Jaeger had a very traumatic, violent beginning to his life and was rescued at 9 months old. He had severe skin and gut and anxiety behavioural trauma type issues. He was hyperactive, climbing the walls, could not switch off, was extremely reactive to the environment, and if they took him outside on the lead, he would literally panic to the point where he was doing backflips. Now, they took this dog to the vets. They had extensive veterinary support. They tried prescription behavioural drugs, which really didn't help at all. And his anxiety was so severe that they were considering behavioural euthanasia. He was also under treatment for his skin issues, really severe chronic allergies, and gut issues, a lot of vomiting, a lot of diarrhea all the time. Veterinary treatment helped a little bit for those things. It helped maybe 10%, So she came along and she enrolled in the bodywork course. And in the beginning, Jaeger was not very open to being touched. He found it very, very challenging to have this touch. So she worked with him in little bits often. And it took about a month before Jaeger really opened up to accepting the therapeutic touch. She worked with him every day. She was very devoted and put a lot of time and effort in using the whole energy body balance work. Now, within a month or two, his behaviour improved out of sight. So he was kind of happy, relaxed, able to go on walks. Within 6 to 8 to 12 weeks, we saw a complete turnaround in his behaviour. Now, the interesting thing with Jaeger is that his skin started to clear up and his gut started to improve within a couple of months of him having regular work, which got his nervous system back into that green zone. Within 3 to 4 months, the vomiting and diarrhea were totally reduced and just about completely gone within 6 months. And the skin issues also cleared up by about 95%. Within 6 months. And he is now a happy dog. Now, he still has ongoing work because this kind of work is not like an antibiotic that you give a prescription and then that's it. You finish and you're done. It's something that you use ongoing to support ongoing regulation, ongoing harmony and balance throughout the whole system. But Jaeger, I think, is probably the most spectacular story that I have. And I mean, this is from a student who learnt the work. It's not from me working with an animal. I got dozens and dozens of other stories of animals I could tell you that I've worked with that we've seen really, really big changes in them.
Amazing. And you've got students now practicing in multiple countries around the world.
Yeah, we've got a whole network of professional practitioners all over the world that are using this work to help animals.
Amazing. And all around Australia as well. For anyone who is looking for some help in this arena, you've got people just about in every state.
Yeah, we've got people all around Australia too. And, if you don't have someone close to you, then you can very easily learn how to do this yourself with your animal.
You've got the book and you've got a number of courses on the website as well.
Yeah. The book is titled Find and Heal Your Pet's Silent Pain. You can find that on Amazon or you can contact me directly to get a digital version if you prefer a digital version. But it's designed to help you understand what the problem of silent pain is, which is soft tissue or neck and back pain that gathers in the animal's bodies from the impacts of just normal everyday wear and tear or any kinds of incidents, accidents and traumas, surgeries. Sometimes it can be more emotional stresses and accidents that happen in the human family that affect the dog. So that book really is designed to educate people about silent pain, which is something that there is a vast ignorance about across the board with pet owners, with pet professionals, with veterinarians. It's something, the soft tissue pain that I see in probably at least every second animal that I get my hands on. And I think part of the reason that people don't think it exists is that it doesn't show up on x-rays and scans and stuff. And vets are trained to look at an x-ray, and if you can't see anything there, well, the animal must be all right.
Yeah, it's not always something that's obviously symptomatic. Sometimes it's something that you have to go looking for.
Yeah. I think the other thing that makes silent pain difficult to pick up is that you get a whole lot of animals that have really significant levels of chronic soft tissue pain, but they don't show any signs much or at all. I mean, there are a whole lot of red flags, but most people don't realise what they are or what to look out for, and that's another thing I cover in depth in the book.
Absolutely. The other thing I really love about the book is about the fact that you spend a lot of time early on talking about mindset, talking about really being present, and about being in the right headspace before you start doing this work on your dog. And I think that's just so key, because I mean, when it comes to our state of being and our emotions, animals are just like little sponges. I don't think a lot of people understand quite how much they take on.
Well, they're very, very sensitive, and they live in our field of consciousness, so they're affected strongly by that, and that's why it's one of the core things that I teach.
Absolutely. No, I think it's great. Yeah, I'm excited to finish the book and start working on all of my dogs, but in particular, my boy who I mentioned with anxiety. I mean, he's mama's boy. We've got a very close bond, but I can really see this work as being so beneficial, not just in helping him with his obvious issues, but even creating a closer bond. I just think it's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, if there was one thing or a couple of things that you could say to pet owners that you would like them to do, that you would like to see more of, what jumps to mind?
Well, look, I think one of the first things is to learn how to understand your pets better, learn how to listen to them better, learn what their nonverbal communication means, because animals are very, very powerful at communicating without words, whereas humans, we kind of get locked up in words and think that, and like a lot of people get surprised when I get my hands on them and I say they're in pain. They say, but they haven't been making any noise, because animals don't vocalize a whole lot of things that are going on with them. It's little changes in their body language, in how they move, in their behavior. Those little changes can be the indicator of a large amount of pain and suffering and trauma and stress that's going on in their system. So people need to just learn how to understand their pets better and listen to them better, I think.
Absolutely. So, if people want to know more, where is the best place to connect with you?
Well, if you search for the Healing Vet on socials, you'll find me there. I'm pretty active, sharing everything I can think of that might be useful for pet owners on socials. You can go to thehealingvet.com. I'm also available for one-on-one Zoom appointments for dogs with anxiety, dogs with trauma, and cats with any kind of illness, or anyone who just wants to explore holistic veterinary care for their animals. And then we have Whole Energy Body Balance, which is the website for the modality, and you can find our training programs and all that kind of stuff there. If you've got any questions, just email me. Go to one of the other websites and there's contact forms on there. I'm always happy to meet you and your animals and have a conversation about how we can help them feel better.
Amazing. And for the equine inclined, you work with large animals, including horses too.
Yeah, we have a program for Web for Horses. We also have a program Web for Humans for people who want to work with healing and body work and energy work for humans.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was so great to chat to you. I'm going to have a million questions, but I'll finish reading the book and go from there.
Maybe when you finish the book, we can get together and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would sincerely love that. Thank you. Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Amazing. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.